Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers and friends of Ikra TV. Welcome to part 2 of this special edition of Real Talk, where we're talking about two factors. One is about the Muslim contribution in the Second World War, and I'm really glad that I have somebody with me whose father, who's 103 years old at the moment and celebrated his birthday a few months ago, actually served in the British Army during the Second World War in Rangoon in the Far East, and his contribution was actually portrayed on BBC News Channel celebrating VJ Day. So, may Allah give him the best of health. Mirza Khan Sahib, Amjad's father, Amjad is my guest today. We'll be talking about Muslim contribution to the UK, not just during the Second World War, but beyond that as well, after migration into this country. And as he said, most people came here with the intention of making money and then going back. Didn't matter whether you're from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Africa. That's what they wanted to do. But then obviously we know that they settled here and then they had children, and we're now into the 4th and 5th and 6th generation in some cases in this country as well. So we are embedded in this country. But after all these years, we are now seeing that in the last few months in particular, there's been a real push against the Muslim community by the far right, and particularly after the events in Southport last year. And the contribution of the Muslim community is being ignored either deliberately or being used against us because of some of the elements that we have suffered in our communities in the past. And we have to accept that like every community, we have people in our communities as well who don't follow the letter of the law or the faith the way they should, and therefore, and that is having a major impact on the rest of the Muslim community. And for example, as before we went on the break, I read out some statistics produced by this EPS223 think tank organization. They produced this report, groundbreaking report, highlighted the economic contribution of the Muslims to the UK, the UK's growth and prosperity, and the risk of exodus. And in that report it says, however, the report reveals a worrying trend. British Muslims are 50% more likely to consider emigration than the average Briton. Affluent British Muslims earning over £62,000 a year are 75% more likely to contemplate leaving the UK. Despite the contribution, the report highlights an alarming trend. British Muslims are more likely to consider leaving the UK due to systematic religious discrimination and the cost of living crisis, with 41% of Muslims citing religious discrimination as a reason to emigrate the UK. The UK risked losing highly skilled and professional entrepreneurs as well. The impact of that exodus could be over £1 billion over the next 3 years. These are stark statistics, aren't they? And you said before we went for the break that people who are now not only thinking, but some have actually moved out as well.
Yeah.
Now that is okay for people who can afford to do it. But what's going to happen to the rest of the people, like the ordinary people like me, who have always been chaprasis? We've been working in the public sector.
Okay, so I think we really need to understand the mindset that says after 60, 70 years of living here, and as you rightly say, we're now into the 4th and 5th generation, and the British society has known the Indian subcontinent, the African subcontinent for the last 300 years.
Exactly, yes.
So our relationship is not of yesterday. So our contribution to their well-being is historically recorded. And it wasn't written by Muslim historians, it was written by British historians and Western historians. So, what the history book says, without the contribution of us, this UK PLC wouldn't be where it is. So let's take that as given now, because it's a historical fact. I think fundamentally, when we talk about why people are leaving and this divide and rule and this conflict between Muslims and the working class, because it's the working class that has been fermented to actually hate us.
They've been fed false information.
And I think what we really need to do, without blaming anybody, but as Muslims who are at risk, we need to understand who's actually funding this hate, who's funding English Defence, Far Right Defence, Nigel Farage, and we know where the funding is coming from. It's a global phenomena.
Right.
which is trying to create hate against the Muslims of what they're doing in Middle East. So if they create this narrative of anti-Muslim, the people in the West would accept any kind of massacre, any kind of wars, any kind of repression, and that is exactly what the ultimate aim of whole this narrative is. Okay, so what we've done in UK is committed some real political blunders. Number one was that we left the European Union. That was commercial suicide. Every rational think tank is now saying our decline in our competitiveness, our decline in our economy, our prosperity is due to that real bad decision that we made. And that decision was made on the basis of racism and against immigrants.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so that theme of racism led to this commercial suicide that is currently happening at the moment.
But again, the working class people don't seem to understand that.
No, but you see,
So how do you make them understand
why do you
it?
think our education system is failing? It's not that we haven't got the money. It's, you know, there are certain elite groups in any nation that control the narrative, that don't want you to be educated in politics. They don't want you to understand entrepreneurialism. They don't want you to understand the use of money. Our problem is that is in our blood. So entrepreneurship is in our blood.
It's inherent.
It's inherent in us.
Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a business
exactly.
person.
And I think as much as you say that we've contributed to this society, the more you say it, the more it irks them, the more it troubles them, that as much as we try, we can't keep these people down. Okay. Now, in this environment, I think even, you know, Sayyid Warsi stood up in the House of Lords and made that speech. You know, I thought my father was mad building that koti in Sialko. Now when I look at this, she says, you know what, that might be our insurance policy.
Oh, yeah.
So if somebody at that level is saying it, what do you think the effect is going to be further down the line? So the next people who are multimillionaires, who've, you know, done a lot of hard work, contributed enormously to the tax and everything, employment, prosperity, and even there, you know, they're not recognized for their contribution. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to, so post 2001, this war and terror, right? The so-called war on terror, yeah. What has happened slowly, whilst the West invested trillions of dollars in this phony war, you know, to subjugate certain countries, what the emerging nations, China, Russia, India, and the other, slowly took the economic power away from us. Okay? So by the time we realized that that was the wrong policy, it was too late. So I'm sure you will have seen the parade in Tiananmen Square the other day where Putin and, you know, North Korea leader, India's leader, and every other leader was there. You know what the other world is saying? We've had enough of this bullying, this continuous wars and everything. But they're not listening.
Is a fight between the two or superpowers and economic powers?
No, it's not. I think it's about cultures. So if you look at the Western civilization post the Second World War, what have you had? Right? Continuous wars, continuous, you know, if you look at what's happened to Imran Khan, if you look at what's happened to Hasina in Bangladesh, right? If you look at what's happened in Syria, if you look at what's happened in Egypt, right? Governments that were elected democratically, which were not acceptable to certain, you know, nations were deposed. Okay, so I think when that happens, you know, when you've come here, you worked hard, you've contributed, and you're still not being accepted. And you see, before, in my generation and my father's generation, when we were growing, there wasn't any alternative. We had to stay. You know what? Today I could go to Turkey, I could go to Morocco, I could go to Malaysia, I could go to Kuwait, I could go to Dubai, I could go anywhere in the world with technology, set up a business, and run my empire across the globe. So physicality is no longer
an issue.
An issue, right? And communications is everything. With e-commerce and artificial intelligence that's coming, physicality goes out. What actually is going to progress nations, inclusiveness. Look at Dubai, look at Qatar, look at Saudi Arabia. 70% of the population is foreign. Yeah, but you know what is? Tolerance, justice, and they allow people to get on with their lives, and they don't tax them to death. They allow people to keep wealth, and you know, when you give people wealth, they spend it, they invest it, and the economy grows.
Right.
Right? And what is now happening, you A, have a threat from the far right, B, the young generation, my kids and your kids, see this opportunity across the globe with technology. You know what they're saying? Why do I need to put up with this humiliation? Why do I need to be accepted as second-class citizen? I can move, and I can still run my empire from Britain if I need to, and that is why they're going. And you know what? The quicker the UK PLC and its government realizes that, right, the quicker the better. Last point. The uniqueness of UK is its diversity. Why? Because those diverse, imagine Pakistanis and Indians living here and the Bangladeshis, and their business people, their thought leaders, their accountants, their solicitors, their economists, their doctors have a natural link to their people in their country and across the globe. You know, my kids are talking to their relatives in America, in Dubai, and they're talking in reals, they're talking in dollars and conversions. So we give our children basic international business teaching without even knowing that we're teaching them.
The acumen, yeah.
Okay, and they negotiate, right? So we teach our kids, you know, international relations and business at the very beginning. So that's why our kids, you know, whether they've got the education or not, are natural entrepreneurs. Now, what the UK has to do, stop this stupid nonsense of saying you are the other and you're the troublemakers,
you're the problem,
and use us as a bridge of global economic prosperity and connectivity. The day we do that, it will be good for us, it'll be good for them, and it'll be good for the globe. But will they realize, will Farage, with his silly narrative of egotism, will he realize that?
I mean, Farage, by all accounts, it seems that Farage has got only one thing on which to capture the imagination of the ordinary working class people. His only attack at the moment is on immigrants.
That's it, and particularly Muslims.
Particularly Muslims.
Yeah.
So how, I mean, and he's getting a lot of traction. He's getting a hell of a lot of traction out there because, you know, the ordinary white person has been fed this narrative that we as a Muslim community are a problem in this country.
Okay,
right?
Let me give you a solution how we overcome that.
Go on.
Right, we're a very tribal organization. I remember my father voting for Labour. I remember I used to vote for Labour, right? But I think, you know, a time has come for our people to become rational. Look at the think tanks, right? Look at where our benefits are. We need to spread ourselves. You know what I say? Go, join, even reform, right? When you're inside and when you have the power, you can do things. Learn from other communities who are doing that.
Well, I mean, I was a member of the Labour Party for 45 years. But then, when Gaza happened a few years ago, I criticised Keir Starmer, and the next thing I know is I got a letter from the Labour Party saying, you are no longer a member of the Labour Party. And I fought inside for 45 years for social justice.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, we've been, you know, people like Ishtiaq Ahmed,
who
was here with me last week, who was a, you know, race equality officer in the Kismet Centre. People like him and myself, and you with ATL. We've been fighting injustice for over 40 years. And we haven't got anywhere. So young people are saying, what chances do we have of changing this huge juggernaut of politics in this country, right? Because we've been in the institutions, we've been part of the operation, and they've completely ignored us. So
I think we're at a pivotal moment, Iqbal. We've got young people in every realm of society now. We are the power brokers. We have the money, we have the intellect, we have the connections. You know what is missing is what I said before, command and control. We need that command and control. And I think a lot of thoughtful, wise people in the country today, like we are talking today, are not just talking. They're saying to me, Amjad, here's the money. Can we get this done? So I think I'm very optimistic that this command and control, inshallah, will come.
Inshallah, inshallah.
And we should never run, because this country was built on the blood, sweat and bones of our ancestors.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
So to run, so as much as I would go set up a company in Dubai, but you know what? I'm going to call myself British, right? And the contribution that my father made, that I made, and you made, and everybody else made, we can't leave that. That is our legacy and contribution to this country.
We need to continue to fight for it as well.
Exactly, and running isn't the solution. By all means, go if the government is taxing you too much, and by offshoring your company and having an office in Dubai or wherever, right, you're going to save money legally. So it's tax avoidance, not tax evasion. I'm encouraging you to go, but make sure you remain a British citizen. Make sure you take keen interest in the development of youth, enterprise, and develop leadership, and above all else.
I mean, one of the questions, one of my guests last week, Maqsood Ahmed, and he's done this a number of times, is that the British Muslim businesses, right, don't do what the Jewish community, for example, do, and sort of put resources, financial resources, into a fund to try and set up what you have very clearly articulated need.
I've got an answer to that.
Go on.
Right, and somebody who's a businessman or a woman or any person looks at investment in a very cold day of the light. They do not look at it from an emotional perspective, and that's how it should be. And when people come to me and say, I'm going to set this up foundation, I'm going to set this foundation up, I go back to the whole thing. What impact are you going to create? How can I evaluate the contribution that we're going to make? You see, that when I ask for evaluation and impact analysis, people say, "Yar, you should be just giving us the money. You've got so much money." Exactly. I'm not going to give you a dime unless you demonstrate to me that you're going to use that money wisely, ethically. There are some charities out there that have been front pages for the bad reason. They happen to be Muslim organizations, right? We need to get our house in order. And when you put your house in order, I'm telling you now, and I'm part of that circle, Muslim businesses are ready to give you the money.
Subhanallah.
I'm telling you now. I told you I was in Manchester, yeah, and that's what we talked about.
Right.
And that organization, I'm not going to name them because, right, that represents the top end of Muslim businesses.
Right.
Yeah. And that person is saying to me, Amjad, how much do you want? But please give me your strategic plan. Where are you going to invest it? What's the impact? And how can we measure it? And that's how it should be. Because for too long, we've given chanda, we've given charity, and we've not asked for accountability. When you're in a position of leadership, it doesn't matter whether you're Imran Khan or you're somebody from wherever you are. It's no longer about personalities. It's no longer about claps. Leadership about delivery and accountability. Those two elements, when they come into our equation of organizational structures and command and control, we will be powerful, inshallah.
I mean, the precedent for that is already there.
Yeah.
If you look at the Jewish Board of Deputies, for example, and the Jewish institutions, they do that already, like second nature.
Yeah,
exactly. And as a consequence of that,
they run it as a business.
Yeah.
And we've got to run our institutions of development, community development, because as the business grows, you need to get leaner, meaner, and effective. Likewise, a community organization needs to get leaner, meaner, effective. When you do that, if I give you charity, I can write you off against my tax. Why would I pay the taxman and not give it to you if you're having an impact in growing my economy and growing my community? Right? It's my legacy. It's common sense. But you've got to come to me and say to me that this is how it's going to happen.
And inshallah, the vision you've just outlined, may Allah bring that into fruition very, very quickly. And when it does, I would like you to come and join me and try and sort of give more information about that vision. But I mean, coming back, we'll go back to your father and his contribution and the family. I mean, obviously, like I say, your father, his contribution is absolutely huge, not just in the Second World War, but also when he came to this country. He worked in the railways, and like you said, he encouraged you to start the business. He pushed you to go into business, didn't he?
It was his money, it was his idea.
Yeah.
I would have gone into financial services where I was. My brother had gone to London, others had become engineers. We would have kind of split up. And to be honest with you, his main reason for asking me to set up a business was that it would keep the family together.
Right.
His wasn't about economics and
There's no money.
It was, how can I keep the family together and my children around me, and then they don't, I'd lose them. So it was more about, not a nuclear, but a extended family system that would spread. So it was about the ethics, it was about the traditions, and it was about the culture, right? And I think we fail. We fail to actually give those characteristics to our fourth and fifth generation, and that I think is
one of the failings of the community. I mean, that vision that Amjad's father had, mashallah, has grown today, is now become part of Bestways, which is one of the biggest Asian Muslim-owned businesses. Somebody told me they're worth about £4 billion a year.
Yeah, about 5 billion. They've got
5 billion.
10% of Sainsbury's now as well.
Oh, mashallah, have they? May Allah give the people of Bestway the strength to develop that business even further. And I know that your brother and people who run Adams Foods, obviously they worked very hard. And I'm sure that what you've heard this afternoon with Amjad here, as I said to you, I have a lot of respect for Amjad. I've known him for over 30 years. He was one of the pioneers in West Yorkshire when he set up ATL with his colleagues, and now he's an international business and policy consultant doing what he did before across the world as well. May Allah give you even more strength. I would urge people to look at these two reports that I've quoted from, and that is the one from the Muslim Memorial, Second World War Memorial Organization, and the think tank. And I'm hoping to get on one of these days, one of the authors from that, Aman Qureshi, who used to be part of Iqra Channel, I've been told before, who's now one of the authors and people who works there, to come on my program to talk about the economic side of the British Muslim community. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Amjad, thank you very much.
Been my pleasure.
Your counsel is always something that I value. Your advice and guidance and your knowledge is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I'm sure my viewers would have found that as well. And much more encouraging what Amjad said about the potential of what's going to happen, inshallah, very soon with the British Muslim community, and particularly the business side. Inshallah, I'll bring him back if he accepts my invitation very soon. In the meantime, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And as I keep saying every week to you, please make du'as for our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Gaza in particular. May Allah bless you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.